Now, in Dili, the capital of Timor-Leste, a ceremony is about to get underway now. It'll see members of the Gosling family formally recognised by President Jose Ramos-Horta for about 20 years of support for a nation that had a rocky start with its separation from Indonesia. Here in Canberra, the Labor MP for Solomon, Luke Gosling, is being recognised, but he can't make it to Dili. Instead, Luke Gosling joined us here in the studio to explain his links with Timor-Leste, which continue to this day. Well, Luke Gosling, there is to be recognition today by the President of Timor-Leste of you, your brothers and your sister-in-law's contribution to that fledgling nation over many years. Congratulations, we should say. You are serving as an MP in the Parliament here in Canberra, so you can't make it to Dili. It prevents you from receiving the award in person. But what's it recognising and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Well, this afternoon, in fact, right about now, my brother Dan Gosling, who spent 28 years in the Australian Army, and his wife Hayley Gosling, who was one of the volunteers in the charity that I started for East Timor. She's a nurse and a midwife. And the President has seen fit to recognise their extraordinary contribution to Timor. And if I can just start with Hayley, my brother's wife. She sort of raised their 6 kids, sometimes in Australia while Dan was in Timor serving with the Army, and sometimes living in Timor with Dan. But she was my program manager for the charity that I started to assist Timor as they sort of come out as an independent country. And those projects that we did is maternal health care, also a range of other projects building schools up in the districts of Timor and water provision to remote villages. And it really has been a love affair from our family to assist Timor through those years. And
that's being recognised. Yes, I think you made a documentary there in the early 2000s. How do you reflect on its progress since then?
I think the progress has been extraordinary. They've had, I think, 5 parliamentary and presidential election processes in that time, they've been peaceful and they have continued to develop. Of course, they need continued assistance from their good friends like us in Australia through developmental assistance and other forms of assistance, but there's been some encouraging improvements. I just look at some of the work that Hayley did with our little charity was in maternal health, and there's been a bit of a decrease in the maternal mortality and morbidity.
I suppose you first got a taste of the power of government soon after your military service, because then you emerge as an advisor to the East Timorese, Timor-Leste president at the time. Did that awaken in you what would later become, a desire to become a politician in Australia? Was that an awakening?
I think it was. It was also through working with people like Janelle Saffin, who's a former member of this place now in the New South Wales government, Peter Garrett, who helped us with some of our early fundraisers for our charity. And I saw, certainly, working with Jose, the real difference that real leadership makes. And because I was working between Darwin and Timor at the time, and Darwin became home, it really did show me how strategically important Darwin is and how we need good leadership in the north, but also how we need to work really closely with Timor and Indonesia.
Look, just a quick one, because there is a question I want to ask about the relationship between Australia, Timor-Leste and Indonesia these days. But it's not just individuals who are being recognised in Dili today. There is also recognition for the 2nd Commando Association, not for anything that happened while you were serving in the country, but back in World War II. What specifically does that recognise?
Well, the 2nd Commando Association is really made up of the family members of all those World War II commandos that served with the 2nd, all gone to God now, but their families still maintain their connections and support of Timor. And I guess what it recognises is people like Paddy Keneally, And I thought that because I served with the 1st Commando Regiment, I knew about these incredible men of the 2nd Second and the way that they fought a massive enemy force on Timor, but only survived through the help of the Timorese.
Yeah, so just jumping forward to today, there is some optimism, I think, that under a Prabowo presidency, it might allow for a better accounting of the years of Indonesian occupation in East Timor, perhaps opening up records, helping to identify the sites of graves. Do you share that optimism?
Well, I'm always optimistic when it comes to our relationship with Indonesia. When the President of Indonesia, Prabowo, visited Parliament here, I met him and spoke with him about our common military background. But I always remember the story that the Timorese colonel that I was advising, or more like he was advising me,
right.
But this is always the case with these relationships. But he told me a story from the time when they were a guerrilla army fighting against people like the general from the Indonesian army. There was a mutual respect between the combatants that I know that Shanana Gusmao still holds to this day. So their relationship is actually quite tight.
Right.
And there is respect between foes. So that's really encouraging that President of Indonesia, Prabowo, is saying that. And I know that'll be welcomed in Timor-Leste if that comes about.
Let's see how that plays out. Certainly a lot to celebrate in your family and in Dili today. Luke Gosling, thanks so much for joining us once again on the program.
Thank you, Greg.